His name once burned across the Strip like a promise. A signature etched into the Mirage, the Bellagio, and Wynn monuments of gold and fantasy that told the world Las Vegas could be more than neon and cheap shrimp cocktails. They were temples of illusion, places where a person could walk in with $20 and walk out feeling untouchable. But according to the Wall Street Journal, that same name, Steve Wynn, had been quietly stained long before the lights dimmed. The report revealed he had paid a $7.5 million settlement to an unnamed manicurist from his flagship resort. A secret buried beneath polished marble and choreographed fountains. It's strange looking back now, remembering the Vegas he built. Not the version choked with resort fees and velvet ropes, but the one that felt alive, accessible, magical. A place where ordinary people could brush shoulders with the rich and believe even briefly that luck was all they needed. That illusion began on November 22, 1989, the day a $630 million gamble roared to life on the Strip, the Mirage. At a time when casinos clung to flickering neon and $1.99 shrimp deals, Steve Wynn unveiled something outrageous, an empire financed by junk bonds, ambition, and the belief that Vegas could become something the world had never seen. But the moment those doors opened, something else opened too. A doorway to a new Las Vegas, one that would eventually leave the rest of us behind. And to understand the rise, you have to start with the man himself. Before the volcanoes and white tigers, before the million-dollar art galleries, there was just a kid named Steve Wynn scrambling to survive. His father's illegal bingo halls left behind nothing but debts and dangerous enemies. Wynn could have walked away. Instead, he paid every cent. That choice hardened him and launched him. By 1972, he controlled the Golden Nugget downtown. That's where the legend began, where Wynn realized people didn't just want to play. They wanted to feel important, to feel seen. Then came the idea that changed everything, the Mirage. A $630 million Leviathan when other casinos cost barely a third of that. Wall Street called it suicide. Wynn didn't care. And when the Mirage opened, 40,000 people flooding in within the first half hour, it didn't just signal a new casino, it marked the beginning of a new era. Vegas was reborn, bigger, louder, more spectacular. The old city of smoky lounges and cheap buffets was dead. Wynn had killed it and replaced it with a fantasy. After the Mirage, Steve Wynn wasn't just another casino mogul. He was the man rewriting the genetic code of Las Vegas. And the Mirage spectacle, smokefire, and fantasy was only his opening act. Just 4 years later, he built something beside it, something louder, wilder, a resort that took the Mirage's magic and twisted it with mischief. On October 27, 1993, Treasure Island opened where the Mirage's parking lot had once been. A $450 million playground of pirates' explosions and nightly battles on a lagoon lit by fire. And inside Cirque du Soleil's first permanent Vegas show, Wynn had found the formula again: give the masses a spectacle so unforgettable they'd hand over their wallets without thinking. But Treasure Island was just a warm-up. Wynn was after something grander, his statement piece. On October 15, 1998, he unveiled the Bellagio, a $1.6 billion declaration that Vegas was no longer tacky. It was elite, artistic, untouchable. Inside, Dale Chihuly's ceiling of hand-blown glass flowers glowed like a crown, 2,000 square feet of light and color that took nearly 2 years to complete. Outside, fountains danced in perfect rhythm with Sinatra. And behind closed doors, Wynn created a fine art gallery filled with Picasso, Monet, and Van Gogh. The Bellagio didn't just raise the bar, it obliterated it. The Las Vegas Sun reported its average room rate at $200 a night, double the rest of the Strip. Governor Bob Miller compared Wynn to Walt Disney. And for a moment, he was. But that's the part people forget. Because while the world was worshiping the Bellagio, the rest of us were watching something else change. The Vegas we loved, the goofy, cheap, anything-can-happen Vegas was disappearing. The $5 blackjack tables, the dirt-cheap buffets, the comps that made regular people feel like royalty. Wynn wasn't chasing us anymore. He was chasing whales. High rollers who gambled in private salons where the minimum bet was $1,000 a hand. Guests who booked $1 earned $50 a bungalows without blinking. By June 2000, Wynn sold Mirage Resorts his entire life's work to MGM Grand for $6.6 billion. He walked away with pockets full and a legacy cemented in stone. But 5 weeks before the ink even dried, he made another move. One that hinted his ambition hadn't softened, it had sharpened. He bought the Desert Inn for $270 million, tore it down, and promised something even bigger. Something that would define him and eventually destroy him. By the early 2000s, Steve Wynn had already reshaped the Strip twice. The Mirage made him a legend. The Bellagio made him a god. But his next move would make him untouchable, or so he believed. When he sold Mirage Resorts to MGM for $6.6 billion, everyone assumed the story was over. He had reinvented Las Vegas, cashed out, and earned the kind of wealth most men chase for a lifetime. Retirement seemed inevitable, but Wynn wasn't built for silence. Just 5 weeks before the sale officially closed, he paid $270 million for the aging Desert Inn. And with the quiet confidence of a man who believed the Strip was his canvas, he erased it from the skyline. On April 28, 2005, Wynn Las Vegas opened its doors, a $2.7 billion monument to control extravagance and Wynn's obsession with perfection. He even appeared in the promotional video himself, declaring, "I'm Steve Wynn and this is my new hotel, the only one I've ever signed my name to." Every inch of the place felt engineered to impress: mosaic floors, shimmering like jewelry, a lake out front polished to mirror glass. The resort didn't just feel expensive, you felt expensive walking through it. And for a while the formula worked. Wynn Las Vegas became the elite's playground, a world where room keys felt like status symbols and the minimum bets matched most people's paychecks. But Wynn's true ambition wasn't in Nevada anymore. He was staring across the ocean toward Macau, the Chinese territory that had just opened its gates to foreign casino operators. It was the next frontier, the biggest gamble of his career. On September 6, 2006, Wynn opened his first international property, Wynn Macau, and within years, the numbers defied belief. By late 2017, Macau generated $1.3 billion out of Wynn Resorts' total $1.7 billion revenue, an astonishing 76% of all company income. Macau wasn't a new market, it was the market. Wynn doubled down with the Wynn Palace opening on August 22, 2016. The project ballooned to $4.1 billion, and Wynn called it his most ambitious creation. It offered 1,700 rooms gondolas floating across a performance lake and designs so extravagant they bordered on surreal. Meanwhile, back home, Vegas was changing. Table minimums climbed. Buffets jumped from a few dollars to $60 a head. Those once easy comps became memories. The $10 blackjack table. Now it was $50. Slots tightened. Resort fees multiplied. Everything felt more polished, but somehow colder. Vegas was winning bigger than ever, but the people weren't. And beneath the glittering facade of Wynn's empire, cracks were forming hairline fractures that would soon split wide open. For decades, Steve Wynn wasn't just the architect of modern Las Vegas, he was Las Vegas, its dreamer, its showman, its golden son. But all empires built on legend share the same vulnerability: one headline can shatter everything. And that headline hit like a detonation. Wynn accused of sexual misconduct by dozens of employees. He denied every claim, but the investigations that followed didn't care about denials. The Nevada Gaming Control Board launched a probe. The Massachusetts Gaming Commission followed. Even regulators in Macau opened their own investigations. And Wall Street reacted instantly. According to CNBC, Wynn Resorts stock plunged nearly 10% the day the story broke, wiping out $2 billion in market value. By Monday, it fell another 9%, closing near $165 a share, an 18% collapse in days. Big banks like Morgan Stanley and UBS downgraded the company overnight. The fall was no longer theoretical. It was happening in real time. Within 24 hours, Wynn resigned as finance chairman of the Republican National Committee. But the avalanche didn't stop. On February 6, 2018, just 10 days after the story went public, Steve Wynn stepped down as CEO and chairman of Wynn Resorts, the empire with his name etched on every wall. His resignation letter was brief, almost clinical. "I have found myself the focus of an avalanche of negative publicity. I cannot continue to be effective in my current roles." His protege Matthew Maddox took over, but the damage was already carved deep. By April 2018, Wynn had sold off his entire 12% ownership stake, worth around $2.4 billion, far less than it had been before the scandal detonated. For a man whose life was built on myth, spectacle, and control, this was something he couldn't contain. And behind the headlines, something darker waited to surface: the investigations that would strip his legacy down to its bones. When Steve Wynn stepped down, the silence didn't bring relief. It brought investigators, regulators, lawyers, and under their lights, the empire that once dazzled with fountains and fireworks looked different, stripped, exposed, fragile. In October 2019, after a 7-month investigation, the Nevada Gaming Control Board filed a 5-count, 23-page complaint against Wynn. They confirmed misconduct allegations dating back to 2005, the very year he was first licensed. Their language was blunt. Wynn was not a person of good character, honesty, or integrity, and was unsuitable to be associated with the gaming industry. The damage didn't stop at the man. In February 2019, Wynn Resorts itself had already been fined $20 million by Nevada regulators, the largest fine in state history, for failing to investigate or report misconduct accusations. Massachusetts' findings were even more devastating. In April 2019, after more than 100 interviews across 6 states, the Massachusetts Gaming Commission released a 200-page report showing Wynn executives had hidden allegations for years. They discovered key settlements like the $7.5 million payout were never disclosed during the company's licensing process. On April 30, 2019, the commission fined Wynn Resorts $35 million and hit CEO Matthew Maddox with a $500,000 fine for not launching an internal investigation when a complaint reached him. They forced the company to separate the roles of CEO and chairman for 15 years and submit to third-party monitoring. But in a twist that defined the controversy, Massachusetts still allowed Wynn Resorts to keep its license. Weeks later, the $2.6 billion Encore Boston Harbor opened, Wynn's name quietly removed from the sign. The punishments continued for years. In July 2023, after appeals reaching the Nevada Supreme Court, Steve Wynn personally agreed to pay a $10 million settlement, the largest individual penalty ever issued by Nevada regulators. He admitted no wrongdoing, but agreed to never again apply for a gaming license in Nevada. Meanwhile, shareholder lawsuits piled up. Pension funds and investors accused Wynn Resorts' board of hiding what they knew. The company eventually settled for $70 million. By the time the dust settled, more than $55 million in regulatory fines and tens of millions more in legal settlements had been paid, money drawn from the same dreamers who kept Wynn's casinos alive for decades. When the investigations finally stopped and the headlines faded, something strange happened. Steve Wynn's name, once a symbol of ambition and impossible dreams, began disappearing. Universities scraped it off buildings. Scholarships were renamed. In Boston, the Encore Resort opened with the Wynn name nowhere in sight. Across the country, a quiet erasure was underway. But on the Strip, his signature still glowed in gold. Wynn, Encore. Icons of the empire, he built monuments to brilliance, excess, and the price of both. They stood as reminders of what he created and what it cost. To the company's credit, change followed the reckoning. Wynn Resorts rebuilt its board with new members, including several women. Executives who had known about the allegations, HR leaders, legal counsel, quietly vanished. New policies, independent oversight, and reporting hotlines were implemented. Slow, uncomfortable reforms that probably should have existed decades earlier. Under CEO Craig Billings, the company clawed back its footing. It cut $1.2 billion in debt, launched a $1 billion stock buyback program, and secured the first-ever gaming license in the United Arab Emirates with a luxury resort planned for 2027. In Macau, the company locked down its casino concession extension in December 2022, securing its future in the world's biggest gambling market. Financially, the empire survived. But Vegas didn't come back the same. The soul of the city, the part that made regular people feel like they belonged, never fully healed. The table minimums didn't go back down. Resort fees didn't shrink. Slots didn't loosen. That old Vegas, the one built for ordinary dreamers, kept slipping farther away. For those who remember the smoky lounges, the cheap dinners, the comps that made you feel like somebody, even if you weren't, it's hard not to feel like something deeper was lost. Because Wynn didn't just sell luxury, he sold us a dream of Vegas where anyone rich or broke could feel like royalty. And slowly, piece by piece, he sold that dream to the highest bidder. So what now? Maybe the future of Vegas isn't in the hands of billionaires or whales. Maybe it's in the people who remember what this city used to feel like. The ones who showed up year after year, built this place with their paychecks and hope, and believed in a city that once believed in them. Vegas wasn't built by the elite. It was built by us. Las Vegas has always sold one thing better than anywhere else on earth: the promise that you could become someone else. Richer, luckier, freer. Steve Wynn understood that promise better than anyone. He weaponized it, perfected it, turned it into a billion-dollar engine. But the truth no one wanted to face was this: every dream comes with a bill. And eventually someone has to pay. For years, we gladly did. $20 blackjack, cheap comps, rooms that felt luxurious without draining your bank account. Vegas was approachable, democratic, a playground for everybody, not just the elite. Then came the megastructures, the private salons, the $1,000 minimum tables, the curated exclusivity that made normal people feel like intruders. Wynn didn't destroy old Vegas in a single night. He dismantled it one resort at a time, one luxury upgrade at a time, one corporate decision that nudged the average gambler further out the door. And the city followed. Because when Wynn changed the rules, the rest of the Strip had no choice but to adapt or get left behind. Today, the Vegas we once knew, cheap, chaotic, welcoming, is a relic. In its place stands a polished metropolis built for whales influencers and high-limit fantasies. A world where locals avoid the Strip and tourists learn quickly that magic now has a price tag. And maybe that's the part that hurts most. Not that Wynn fell, but that his vision survived, even without him. The marble stayed, the resort fees stayed, the $60 buffets stayed, the exclusivity stayed. His empire fractured, but his blueprint, it became the city's new DNA. Stand on the Strip today and you'll see Steve Wynn everywhere, even in the places that removed his name. The skyline he imagined still dominates the desert. The mega resort culture he pioneered still dictates how Vegas moves, breathes, and profits. But look closer past the fountains and glass towers, and you'll see something else: the cost of chasing perfection. Vegas used to be a sanctuary for the regulars, the bus tour seniors, the young couples scraping together a weekend escape, the locals who knew every shortcut and every cheap table in town. They didn't come for luxury. They didn't come for curated exclusivity. They came for possibility. Today, possibility feels like a premium upgrade. The resort fees, the $25 cocktails, the $50 blackjack minimums, the buffets priced like fine dining, the comps that vanished unless you gamble like a millionaire. The soul of the city didn't disappear overnight. It faded slowly, quietly, each time Vegas chose profit over people, spectacle over accessibility, whales over everyone else. And ironically, even after the scandals, the fines, the investigations, the erasure, Wynn's version of Vegas won. The old Vegas, the one built on grit and hope and $5 tables, didn't survive him. Only his shadow did. But beneath all of it, something stubborn remains. Because Vegas has always been more than its moguls, more than its scandals, more than its golden towers. Vegas is built on the backs of the dreamers, the millions who kept coming back year after year, believing this city could make them feel alive. People like us. So maybe the next chapter of Vegas isn't written by billionaires at all. Maybe it's shaped by the ones who remember what the city used to stand for and refuse to let that memory die. The ones who still believe Vegas should make everyone feel like a king, not just the few who can afford it. Wynn built the new Vegas, but we lived in the old one, and the real question now is simple: which version deserves to survive?